Item number 1 is presentation to the court by BMY pertaining to 2022 outside audit. There you are, Jeremy. Come on up to the mic. If you will, you make sure that it is turned on, please. How you doing this morning?
Doesn't sound.
It doesn't. You're right. It really does.
I can talk loud.
I don't know. Is there light on? Red light? Something don't sound good. That's all right, man.
All right, I'll speak loud.
There you go.
All right. Thanks for the intro. My name is Jeremy Shell. I'm an audit partner with Voucher Morgan & Young, and we are here to present the September 30, 2022 audit of the county's financial statements. So we're going to rock and roll through this pretty fast. Of course, if anybody has any questions, stop me and we can address those. We'll start out on page 3 of the report. First page we look at is a long-time letterhead. This is the main page that matters. So the first paragraph up there says opinions, and we gave an unqualified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can give as an accounting firm. We're not saying these financials are good or bad. We're saying these financial statements are accurate. It's up to those in charge of governance and management to determine if y'all are where y'all need to be at this point in time to conduct the business of the county. That said, as we went through these financial statements, there's nothing that, in my opinion, gives off a fire alarm or of great concern. So we'll kind of walk through that quickly. On page 4, we'll start there. This is the management discussion analysis section. This is where management had opportunity to come through and make comments on financial statements. I would recommend reading through this. We call this the plain English approach to accounting. So it cuts through a little bit of the jargon and it's just more of a commentary approach. This is the only place in governmental financial statements that you will find comparative statements, meaning comparing 2022 to 2021. So once again, it can be useful. It's just kind of an above and beyond financial statement that gets included in the audit report. Go ahead and flip over to page 16. To page 16, we're going to look at balance sheet for the date ending September 30th, 2022. And as we talk today about different financial statements, we'll be asking what part of the government we're talking about here. You are very unique, especially for a county this size, but y'all have enterprise fund, you have a golf course, and you have the expo center.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah. So that's always we're going to be having two different conversations. You're going to look at similar financial statements. I'm always going to remind you which ones we're looking at. This is everything outside of the enterprise fund. So you have two columns there. You have a general fund and you have a non-major fund. That very far right is your total governmental funds. So it's everything but the golf course and the expo center. Total assets in your governmental funds are right at $22 million. You can see the very top line up there in the far right. Roughly $21 million of that is cash investments. So very, very liquid state as of 9/30/2022, a healthy state as far as cash investments go. The way this financial statement works on that far right column, you take your assets at the top and you work your way down, you back out your liabilities, and towards the bottom you're going to see that $19,700,000. So take all our assets, back out our liabilities, we end up with a positive equity position of $19,700,000. So basically means I don't have a lot of liabilities at the moment as of 9/30/22 offsetting those assets. So that's good. Page 18. Page 18 is a similar setup of a financial statement. This is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. In the real world, we would call that an income statement. Same setup. You're going to have the general fund on the left, and then you have a few different smaller special revenue funds for financial reporting purposes. We combined into one column, non-major fund, and the far right column we have the total of all your funds. That top section is revenue by revenue source. The number that jumps out at you is that very top number, $12.6 million of your $15.9 million in revenues for this year, ending 9/30/22, came from property taxes. That next section down, the next biggest income coming in is other taxes, which that is a new sales tax that came on board in September 30th, 2022. So you kind of work your way down there and see the different revenue sources. Total revenues of $15.1 million. That next section down to the expenditures. This basically breaks out the expenditures by services provided to the residents of the county, or by function, if you will. The largest expense in there is your public safety. Makes up almost half of your expenditures for the county. You have different precincts, then the road and bridge. You work your way down, you're going to see total expenditures of $12.9 million. And then you have a little section towards the bottom, other financing sources. These are non-operating revenues and expenses. year, money gets transferred between the funds, maybe an asset gets sold. That's not the normal course of business for accounting, so we throw up its own little section down there. So if we take all the revenues, back out all the expenditures, and take into account these other financing sources, there was a positive increase in fund balance for your governmental funds of $3.2 million for the year ending 9/30/22. We'll turn to page 20. Financial statement's gonna look pretty familiar. It's different funds we're looking at. So this is the proprietary funds. In this case, you'll have two main funds. You have the golf course, and then we also have a column for the Expo Amphitheater. Obviously not a whole lot in here for the amphitheater. It's basically the Expo Center. And that far right column is a total of all those. Total assets and deferred outflows for both enterprise funds combined was right at $11 million. Of that, $1.5 million was in cash and investments, and a majority of your assets in your enterprise fund is locked up in your investments and capital expenditures over the year, of roughly $9.2 million. So the way that works, over the year, y'all purchase roughly $34 million in assets, and then those are assigned to useful life. They get depreciated over time, except for land. So take all the assets y'all purchased for these two enterprise funds, you back out the accumulated depreciation to date, right around $9.2 million in net book value still sitting over there as far as investment in assets. And like I said, the top section was our assets and deferred outflows. That next section down is your liabilities. If we take all our assets on the top, back out our liabilities, we end up with a net position of roughly $9.5 million. It's the number you can see in the very bottom right number, the total net position. Once again, largest percentage of your equity at year end in your enterprise funds is been invested in capital expenditures, kind of what you expect to see. We turn over to page 21. Similar layout, golf course on the left, Expo in the middle, and then on the far right is the total enterprise funds. This is the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position for the year ending 9/30/2022. So that top section is your revenues. Golf course had total revenues $2.7 million. Amphitheater, or the Expo Center, right at around $1 million, $1.1 million. So for a total of $3.8 million between your two enterprise funds. That next section down is your operating expenses. What did it cost to provide these services to the golf course and the Expo Center? Total operating expenses for the golf course, $2.6 million. Operating for the Expo Center, 1.7, for a total of $4.2 million. So we take our revenues 3.8, and we back out our operating expenses. We had a loss, operating loss for the year of $483,000. If you kind of break that down, you kind of fall over there to the left. Your golf course actually had operating income of $112, and your Expo Center had a loss of right around $600,000. So they net out to a net of $483,000. That next section down, once again, is non-operating revenues, expenses. There's some money in there for sale of assets. And then we see some big transfers in and out at the bottom. So there was $300,000 transferred over from the golf course to help fund the Expo Center, and another roughly $300,000 moved over from the general fund to help fund the Expo Center. So if we roll in the revenues, back out the expenditures, and take into account these other non-operating revenues and expenses, we had a change in net position of our two enterprise funds, a loss of right around $39,000. So, in the great scheme of things, broke even. Just want to point out a few other things on page 25. It's the beginning of the footnotes to the financial statements. So what we do in here is required in the reporting standards. We go through here and we lay out in detail how every single thing is reported on the financial statements. And that allows you to have comfort that we're not doing something different than the next county over, or the next county, the next state over. We all operate on the same basis of reporting. So that's what the purpose of these financial statements are. The only other financial statement I want to point out for you is on page 46. Page 46, this is strictly for the general fund. It can be helpful with budgeting and just kind of reviewing how things are running through the county. This the year ending September 30th, 2020. Once again, this is the general fund only. The far left column is the original budget adopted for the general fund. Next column over that says final, with the final amended budget for the general fund after any type of line item transfers were made. Third column is where the general fund actually ended up in revenues and expenditures. So when you look at that very far right column, what it does, it takes the final amended budget and compares it to where the county actually ended up and gives you a negative or positive variance. So your total revenues in the top section for the year, the county came out $579 ahead of budget. The next section down, the expenditures, the county came in ahead $68,000 actual compared to budget. So for the year, if you take into account revenues and expenditures, came in roughly $647,000 over budget, or a positive variance year ending 9/30/2022. And just a quick run through the financial statements. The good news is Nikki's already working on the 23 trial balances, so as soon as we get the thumbs up, we will be, for the first time in a long time, working on current audit. So that's good.
When you, Nikki, and myself met, we went over this preliminaries before we present to the court. We discussed that in the near future, Nikki may need one more person to help do us with the audits if we continue on the path we're going.
Yes,
Is that correct?
absolutely. That's one of my recommendations is a more robust audit program, getting out to the golf course and the expo center, show up, do an analysis, cash account inventory on a monthly, at least a monthly basis with your JP, district clerk, county clerk. We want to see audits being done. So it's very simple. They have their own accounting modules. They report daily or weekly to the treasurer, the receipts. We want the auditor to come in behind, grab their own reports, reconcile the two. Make sure the internal reporting matches what's hitting the bank account. Keeps everybody on the same page, identifies errors, timely, if there's ever fraud, it'll pop out in a hurry.
So the money's going and not going, and so on and so forth.
Correct. And once upon a time those are being done, kind of in this audit, this time frame we're auditing, you kind of see they just kind of got dropped off and turned over to the audit department. So,
Anything you'd like to add to that, Nikki, at all? Any questions at all from the court before we move on to number 2?
thank y'all.
Thank you, Jeremy. And I'm sure we'll be talking about 23 very shortly.
I hope so.
Very soon. Yeah. All right, so item number 2 is discuss take action to receive the 2022 Somervell County outside audit presented by BMY. I have a motion to accept and receive this audit as presented. Have a motion by Wade, do I have a second? Have a second by Richard. Any further questions, comments, or issues? All in favor of said motion? 5 for, 0 against.